Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ian J. Cole. I'm a musician, producer, educator, and I also run a business called Sinners Music Limited, which is a music shop and a record label. And in this series of videos we're going to demystify what it's like to run a record label. We're going to cover all of the aspects of starting a record label, and we're going to discuss all of the departments that are involved in a record label. And we'll start that process by having a look at the different types of record label that there are. We've got a major record label, we've got independent record labels, and we've got what are called micro labels. So let's get started. Right, so let's have a look at what we've got. We've got a major record label. We've got an independent label. And we've got what's called micro label. Our major label will start by having a A&R department where they will search for new talent and end up giving them a recording deal or licensing their music. The other departments that our major label's got, we've got a sales department, we've got marketing, we've got production, and distribution. We will have a finance department, legal, probably somebody doing international, and then last but not least we have publishing. We're going to cover all of these departments in different videos. When we come to look at the independent label, the main advantage that the major label's got over the independent is money. They can spend an awful lot more money than an independent label. What we find with the independent label is there will be less money around, but there is an advantage of being a closer relationship between artist and record label. All of these departments will still be needed in some degree by the independent label. What happens when we come to a micro label? In a micro label we have one or two people doing all of these jobs, whereas in an independent label you'll have a few people doing it, maybe 10 or 20. In a major label you may have hundreds of people working in the label. So what we tend to see with the micro label is that, like I say, one or two people will do this job. In my label I do most of these jobs. I'm a micro label, so Sinners Music is a micro label. So we don't have very big budgets, much smaller budgets than we get with an independent label, and minuscule budgets compared to the major label. The advantage of going with a micro label is complete control. I have complete control over the music that I produce, and my artists who work with me have complete control over their work. I may have an opinion, but at the end of the day it's their music. So the first question we need to ask is why? Why do we want to start a record label? Is it just to put out your own music? or your friend's music? What's the real motivation for starting a record label? When I started Sinners Music, it was to put out the music of the band that I was playing with, and also to put out the back catalogue of bands that I'd been in. So that's the first thing we need to decide, is why do you want to start a record label? The next thing is budgets. We need to talk about money. How much? Because all of this stuff is going to cost. Even if we do it on a very small budget, it's going to cost money to get things going. The sort of things that we come up with are, we've got recording costs, distribution costs, and then joining things like PRS, PPL, MCPS. We'll cover all of these organisations in a future video, but we need to have some sort of a budget. How much does it cost to put out an album? Well, the average figure, considered these days, is a minimum £5,000. So that's probably our starting point. It can be done cheaper, and we'll look at ways of making it as cheap as possible. Especially if it's your own music, you might have a home studio, so you might be able to incorporate the recording costs into the equipment that you've already got. But the figure's banded around at a minimum 5,000 to be able to put an album out. So, you've decided that you're going to start a record label. What's the first thing we need to do? The first thing we need to do is we need to come up with a name. And it needs to be a name that's not already being used. When I started Sinners Music, the first thing that I did was I did a Google search. And amazingly, there wasn't a record label called Sinners Music. I think the closest we got was Saint and Sinners Music. We do a Google search and see if the name is freely available. Now, it could have been Sinners Records or Sinners Publishing. There could have been other variations on the key word that we were using. The other place to have a look is Discogs. So Discogs is a site where you can search for an artist or a record label. Here is the Discogs site. If I put Sinners Music in the search, and the second choice is actually my label, but we've got the link to labels there, and there is the information. So it tells you what my label's about. It's predominantly a digital net label, arranging the worldwide distribution for its artists. The label was founded in 2006 by myself, and initially to create the debut album from a Leeds folk punk band, Ryan Shirlow and the Bloody Marys, which was a band that I was playing in. There's quite a lot of information. We've worked with a number of artists, predominantly around East and North Yorkshire in England, which is where we're based, and it even goes so far as to tell you that our online distribution is managed by Emu Bands, with CD and vinyl releases usually being paid for by the artist and then distributed by ourselves. The label has a monthly radio show called the Audiophile Show to showcase new and interesting music. The interesting thing about this is the 3 titles that have been attributed to this on Discogs are absolutely nothing to do with Sinners Music. These are not the music that we've released. So the other thing to do would be to do a straightforward Google search. Now I know that Sinners Music will come up because we have a website, and it's always good to have a website for your label. It's one of the first things that we should do. Once you've chosen your name for the label and we've done a Google search to make sure that nobody else has got it, then the next thing would be to try and get the domain name. Now we'll cover that in the next video, but just as an experiment, let's pick a name. I've decided that I want to call our new record company Bog Off Records. So let's do the search. So we'll do the Google search first. When we put in Bog Off Records, we're getting Rock Pot Records and somebody called Vera Bogoff, but we're not getting, so it doesn't look like there's a Bog Off Records. To double check that, we'll pop the same search into Discogs, and when we click on label, exploring Bog Off Records, couldn't find anything, so there's no Bog Off Records there. And lastly, we'll just check Company's House to see if there's a limited company. Now it's worth having a look at this because all limited companies in the UK have to be registered with what's called Company's House. So Sinners Music is a limited company, so we're registered with Company's House. Doesn't seem to be. We'll check the records out, see if there's anything that's... No. So we've got our name for our new record label. So in the next video we'll look at how to get a domain name and making the actual label a legitimate label. Thanks very much for watching. If you like what I do, hit the subscribe button, and a thumbs up is always much appreciated. And if you want to be notified when the next video goes live, ding that little bell. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.